The All Progressives Grand Alliance recently conducted its gubernatorial primaries in Awka, Anambra State, where incumbent Governor Soludo was confirmed as the party's candidate for the November 2025 election. The process involved delegates from wards across the state's 21 local government areas who ratified Soludo's nomination through a yes or no vote. Prior to the primary, APGA's leadership had pledged a transparent and inclusive process, stating that all aspirants would have equal opportunities to participate. However, the unilateral declaration of Soludo as the sole candidate has raised questions about the transparency of the process and whether it provided equal opportunities for other potential contestants. Additionally, concerns have been voiced about the potential exclusionary impact of this approach of the party's internal democracy. Well, to delve deeper into these issues, we're joined by Opara Ejimofor, the spokesman for APGA and special advisor on digital media to Governor Soludo. He'll provide insights into the party's perspective on the primary's transparency, the equal opportunities afforded to all contestants, and address concerns about the unilateral declaration of Soludo as the candidate. Good afternoon. Many thanks for joining us on Newsday.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon, Cynthia. It's nice having you here again.
Of course. Likewise. Now, what specific measures were put in place to ensure other aspirants had a fair chance against an incumbent governor with significant party backing?
Okay, thank you once again, and good afternoon, listeners and viewers. I listened to your intro, and of course, I would like to just present some facts as they are. Governor Soludo emerged as the candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance last Saturday, through a very transparent and credible primary election process, as enshrined in the Electoral Act, that parties, must field candidates or should field candidates, for elections. And APGA, as a party, has taken up that process and conducted it in a way that that meets the dictates and the precepts of the law. Now, you would agree with me that people are not coerced into leadership. Neither do you compel people out of their against their volition to aspire or contest for elections. So what you saw play out in Anambra is nothing short of a consensus of the critical stakeholders in the party and indeed all party members. Like you said in your introduction, and I would like to also put a footnote to it, that it was a yes and no vote, and 3,172 delegates from the 326 wards of the Anambra State came out and voted in that process overwhelmingly for Charles Chukwuma Soludo. Now, let me state here clearly that this is the first time we are seeing a governorship candidate emerge strictly on the merit of his performance, and that's exactly what you've seen. This is a rounded and an unblemished vote of confidence on the quality of leadership that Governor Soludo has given to Anambra in the last 3 years. So what we are seeing is quite unprecedented. And I can tell you for free that in the build-up to the primary election, there has been a series of endorsements from various groups, students, youths, community leaders, past and present, religious organizations, members of the academia, even from the opposition, camp. There has been, torrents of endorsements, calling on the governor to continue the sterling work, the very remarkable performance he has routed in the state in the last, 3 years. And that's exactly what played out on Saturday.
So are you saying that there were no other interested contestants in this particular election? Because we see that Governor Soludo came in or won unopposed. It was the lone contestant in this. What does this say about the internal democracy in your party, APGA? And also seeing that there were no other contestants. Were there grouses? Were there aggrieved, parties who were not, able to participate in this election?
From where I see it, I'm not aware of anybody who wanted to contest the election and was not permitted to contest the election. I'm telling you that, Governor Soludo's emergence is or remains a unanimous decision of the leadership and membership of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. There was no one, from any quarter of the state who, elected to, be part of the process that was excluded. So there was no issue of exclusion. And if you have any, you bring it to the table. Nobody was excluded from the process. It was when INEC provided the timetable for the conduct of primaries, APGA published, the schedule for, for the process, and it was widely publicized, both on television, both on newspapers and, various other media. And of course, you can't go to people's houses to come to beat them into, coming to contest the election for the sake of contesting. I am telling you that people have seen that there is actually no need for, wanting to change a winning team. And this is exactly what makes APGA a very unique party, because we're a party of progressives. And as progressives, we support what is good and encourage what is good, irrespective of who it is coming from. So we are guided by the common good, by the public good. I can tell you, I read a very funny comment today on social media where Anambra, a citizen of Anambra, was saying that it will amount to a criminal offense for anybody to actually attempt to stop the quality of development that Governor Soludo has brought to Anambra State. So this is exactly the feelers. It's even beyond the party. Because if you go to Anambra today, the feelers on the streets of Anambra is that Governor Soludo has performed beyond, the expectations of the people. And this is a governor that came into power with a clear-cut agenda, encapsulated in a document called the People's Manifesto, the Soludo Solution Agenda. And you see that he is laying the foundation of what is now known as the Anambra Vision 2070, a development plan, couched, for the state about in 2019, which he actually chaired. So the foundational works of that development plan is what we are beginning to see in Anambra State. Today in Anambra State, we have seen various levels of myriads of development scattered across all sectors, from infrastructure to human capital development, education, health, law and order, security, name it, even the environment. The governor has, done quite, marvelously well. In infrastructure, for instance, today in Anambra State, in less than 3 years, this government has flagged off about 754 kilometers of road and completed and asphalted about 462 kilometers. This government has recruited over 8,115 teachers, to end the era of schools without teachers in the state. This government has recruited about 1,000 health, personnel, including doctors and nurses, to man our hospitals. The 326 primary health care centers in Anambra State today have received massive and significant facelift. In Anambra today, we are talking about a state where the governor is building 5 brand new general hospitals. We're talking about a state where a hitherto urban slum, known as Opoku, has today been transformed to the point that the residents of the place now call it New Heaven. Okay. These things are, quite, unprecedented. And many more is actually happening. You come to Oka today. Oka has become, has taken up the status of a very befitting, state capital of a people like, India Anambra, something that never, was, before now. And talking about state capital, Anambra, has remained that state, that has no befitting governor's lodge and, government house. In the last 34 years, the governor has operated from a town away from the state capital. And the government house has been a makeshift construction, yard of the company that built Onitsha Express Road. But today, that 34-year-old jinx has been broken. There is Anambra has today built what you may call the largest and the greenest, government house and governor's lodge, in Nigeria today. And these things are tangible, they are visible. And like I mentioned in my opening, that this is the first time you're having a candidate emerge, to go for a second term in office, strictly on the merit of performance, on the merit of his sterling performance. And that's what you're seeing in Anambra today.
Okay, well, thank you for giving us more insight on the achievements of Governor Soludo. But let's talk more about APGA, because based on what you're saying, the process, the primary process of the primaries was transparent and fair by your accounts. But you mentioned earlier that APGA is a party that's guided by public good. But one of the matters that has been brought up in the past is the question about APGA being able to justify the high cost of nomination forms, for instance, when it claims to be a party that promotes inclusive political participation. Based on the feedback that's being received by critics, how are you incorporating the feedback to ensure that you're actually listening to the will of the people?
Okay, if I'm not wrong, maybe you could fact check me later. I think in this entire process, that's in the build up to the 2025, governorship, race in Anambra State, I don't think there's any party who sold the nomination and expression of interest form cheaper than or lesser than APGA did. You could fact check me. I think the other parties, sold for some 50 to 40, 60 million thereabout. But in APGA, it was far less. If you may, it was far less compared to what what is obtained from what was obtainable from other parties. And talking about the inclusion, we also give out the for those who are physically challenged and women, I think they got about they to get about 50% discount on whatever be the cost of nomination. And I think the physically challenged people got it for free. They could come up. Like I said, these things border on personal aspiration. The party sets the ground rule, and people for reasons best known to them come up to be part of the process. The party wouldn't go to people's houses or go to their offices and tell them you must contest the election. No, the party sets the rules, and if you feel you're qualified and you have what it takes to to throw in your heart in the ring, come on. We are an all-inclusive party. We're a party that is open to everybody. 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 That's why we call ourselves the foremost progressive party in Nigeria, and we are driven by the concerns about the people. As a matter of fact, we have taken it quite a notch higher. If you look at what the Soludo government is doing, you can call it sustainable neo-welfarism, something that sustainably empowers the people to become better than they were, just because there is a government in place. You come to Anambra today, we have over the first batch of 5,000 youths have been trained, under the program called One Youth, Two Skills. They've been trained and empowered, to go on and become even employers of labor themselves. And the next batch of 8,700 is underway. Now, from the previous batch of 5,000, another, 3,000 of them elected to, train more people who now call themselves, millionaires because of the empowerment they have, the training and empowerment that they have received from government. This is sustainable, welfarism for the people. You talk about free education in Anambra State.
Well, ultimately, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the updates on the developments that Governor Soludo has brought to Anambra State. But ultimately, the choice is the people's to make, whether he deserves a second term or not. But thank you for your time on the show, Mazi, Opara, Ejimofor.